Right, okay. So I'd like to talk about this very interesting paper by Ilaria Tercelli and Nuno Ferreira. It's a systematic review of mindfulness-based interventions for children and young people with ADHD and their parents. This is from the University of Edinburgh and the University of Nicosia. Um, ADHD is a very common disorder in childhood, and it seems to be increasing, or at least increasingly diagnosed in adults, very often in relatives and family members of patients, children with ADHD. And the question is, whether specific CBT, like mindfulness-based intervention, may help with the outcome of the children. So this is the abstract. There have been several databases searched by Illaria, and so it was used the PRISMA criteria, which are common criteria. So what you then can see, so this is the PRISMA chart coming up here, hopefully, eventually. So they looked through records, identified 1,424 papers, found some extra ones, and checked for these what these studies had assessed mindfulness intervention in children. So there were quite a lot of studies which had been excluded because they mentioned mindfulness, which is very common. They mentioned children, but they didn't mention the specific therapy. So finally, 10 studies were included and they were carefully assessed. So there is a big table on that, and for those who will be interested, they can go through that. There's quite a few studies which have very, very low sample size. So this is Carboni study from 2012, only having 4 males, age 8. And what they can see is that there's some decrease in hyperactivity on specific scales. So later they have, same number of people, and the information again comes from in the same way. And again, they have a slightly decrease in hyperactivity. There's some the studies by Heidicke has 5 males and 5 females and 13 males, and they're slightly older. And so age range is 13 to 18. And what they can see, these again studies are carefully assessed. Interesting enough, in this study, parental stress was also assessed with different scales. I don't want to go into these scales, but what you can see that there was significant effects on the parental stress. So the effects are very well measured, not just on the child, but also on the parental stress. So study by Schechter, again, careful at the measuring of attention, hyperactivity, impulsivity, and also family improvement. So they're small studies, some up to 36 patients, like the SIDU study, and many of the symptoms were reduced. Some inattention was affected, but the problem with all these studies is that the number of patients, like here, 5 children, 5 male, 5 female children, are not really enough to make the conclusion. The interesting part is that when you find significance, you must have a very strong effect size, which to some extent is quite unusual. So these effect sizes were horrendous. In this respect, it seemed that there might be some exaggeration in these effects. The authors try to counterbalance this by looking at the grey literature, because what happens very often that publications more and more show or prefer to show the positive studies, and the negative studies are not shown. Anyway, so there is some effects of so that's another study. So there's some positive effects in different scales, some calming down of the relative, but the effect on large sample size and the effect sizes are difficult to assess. So this is an interesting study. If you're interested in that, feel free to look at the website Global Psychiatry where the journal Global Psychiatry Archives is published. And I hope you learned a little bit on this. So the take-home message is more or less what comes in the I mentioned the quality of the papers, which is not really great because there's a very small sample size, selective sample size, and possibly a little bit of the awareness size. However, I can see that so the final result here is more or less mindfulness-based interventions are possible. There seems to be some positive on the ADHD part, or it could be more or less randomized controlled studies, and that hasn't happened yet. So I think there's much more research to be done to say that mindfulness-based intervention work efficiently in patients and their relatives. The question is, what is the previous effects unspecific, and how long will it last? What is needed? There's absolutely not enough data on that. If you're interested to get more information from us, please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube website, Global Psychiatry Archives. And with this, I thank you for your attention and hope that you enjoyed this little introduction. Okay, thanks to all and goodbye.